Hey guys, what's going on? My name is TVT and today I'm going to be doing a response video as requested by a friend to a video called The Paradox of Prayer, Why Prayer is Pointless by a guy called The Cosmic Skeptic. So, let's get right into it.
Hey everybody, it's your friendly neighbourhood atheist here. If you're a Christian, like I was for many years of my childhood, then I have no doubt that prayer is a very important part of your life. And today, I'm going to tell you why it's probably pointless. Now, just as a disclaimer before I begin, because I'm bound to offend a bunch of the people who are going to watch this. When I talk about prayer, I'm only talking about prayer concerning the three Abrahamic religions which dominate today's religious population. So if you don't conform to organised religion and you have your own personal spirituality, or you're offended by atheistic logic, then this video probably isn't for you. Now, if you are religious, then you'll be very aware of the attributes that your religion assigns to your God. The most important one to focus on for this topic is the fact that all three of the Abrahamic gods are supposedly omniscient. This means that they are aware of everything that has happened, that will happen, and is happening right now. Another important point is that they all supposedly have a predetermined plan as to what's going to happen in our lives.
Okay, so my first issue with this is, he says that God has a plan for our lives, which is true, that is scriptural. However, what also is scriptural is that Adam and Eve ate the apple. Therefore, when they ate the apple, they weren't conforming to God's plan, they were choosing to do their own thing. So by saying that God has a plan for everything is true, however, he does not control everyone's actions. He does not force people to do anything, and he is not a puppet master controlling puppets. So therefore, yes, he is omniscient because he is all-knowing, but that doesn't mean he is all-controlling. So he has a plan for our lives, however we choose to follow our own ideas and our own plans, rather than following his specific one.
And here lies the paradox of prayer. The type of prayer that's brought into question by these qualities are the type of prayer concerning asking God for something to happen.
Okay, so my second issue is, the title of the video says why prayer is pointless. And what he has just said is that only specific types of praying is pointless. So only asking God for something is pointless. So therefore, prayer itself isn't pointless. What he is saying is only asking God for something is pointless, so therefore he has a misleading title, but we'll overlook that and carry on with the video.
For instance, if you ask God for your favourite sports team to win, or for a family member to overcome a disease. The important point is that the outcome of these prayers will have one of two options, i.e. it will either happen or it won't. The team will win or the team will lose. The family member will survive or the family member will die. It's always going to be one or the other. Now the issue is, God already knows which is going to happen. He already has it because he's already planned it to happen. The future isn't the future for him because he's outside of time. This means that God already knows if the team is going to win or lose. God already knows if the family member is going to survive or die because it's all part of his plan. So when you pray to God asking him for something, it will either already be part of his plan or not be part of his plan. If it's not part of God's plan, then it's not going to happen because God's plan is final and God's plan is the best plan. This means it's pointless to ask for something if it's not already part of God's plan.
No, I would say it is not pointless to ask God for anything, because if you don't ask, you don't receive. And there's a verse in the Bible that Jesus says, if you ask the Father for wisdom, then he will give you wisdom. If you don't ask God for wisdom, he's not going to give it to you. So even though God knows whether we're going to ask or not, and because he's outside of time, he already knows what the outcome is going to be. Whether if you don't ask in the first place, then you're not going to receive, and we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So therefore, it is not pointless to ask, because if you don't ask, you don't get. Even though we don't know the outcome, it's still wise to ask for it. So effectively, what if it is God's plan for you to ask him for something? Therefore, if you don't ask him, then you're not following his plan and you're not going to get it. However, if it is his plan, you ask for it, you're going to get it. Hopefully that makes a bit more sense as to what I'm trying to say.
Because it's not going to happen anyway. On the other hand, if it is part of God's plan, then it was already going to happen regardless of whether you prayed for it or not. This means that while you're not hurting your cause, you're also not helping it in any way. And because you're praying for something to happen that was already going to happen, this means that a prayer of this type is again futile. So this means that both of the conceivable outcomes of this type of prayer are completely unaffected by the prayer itself. And there lies the paradox. Whether it's part of God's plan or whether it's not, What you're praying for will have no effect on the outcome due to the attributes that, if you're part of an organised religion, you agree your God has, and therefore any prayer of this type is futile. Now, of course, if you have your own personal religion which believes that God can change his plan, then there's no contradiction to be found. This is only a paradox if you believe your God to have the attributes that are laid out in one of the 3 Abrahamic religious texts, that is the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. And so, Jewish, Muslim, Christian fundamentalists, I'd love to hear your response.
Yes, he is correct. God does know exactly what's going to happen, and he does know, and he is outside of time. Okay, so here is my response, and it's simply one word: relationship. So as a Christian, I believe that my whole faith is built up on a relationship between myself and God and I. When Jesus came, he came to make a bridge between us and God. So before Jesus came, there was a gap between us and God, which meant that if we wanted to talk to him, it was a lot harder. Jesus came to bridge the gap so that we can talk to God directly. Now, relationship with God is a big thing that's spoken in the New Testament. God doesn't want to be this distant person that you only call to when you need to talk to him or when you want something. God wants to be a fatherly figure. That is why he is called God the Father in the Trinity. So it isn't pointless to pray, because God wants you to rely on him. He wants you to become dependent on him. Because he is a father, like a father wants the son to be dependent on him, he wants to try and build that son up and make him into a good person. Now, say a family member is dying or has quite poor health and you ask God for help, then he will answer your prayers. Whether he answers it in a way that you like or not, God always answers your prayers. Now, by not asking God for help, we're effectively saying, okay God, this situation is out of my control, but I'm not going to ask you to help. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave you out of it, and I'm just going to hope for the best, because that's all I can do. So we're effectively turning our backs on God, saying that actually we don't particularly care what's going to happen, because he already knows what's going to happen, so therefore what's the point in praying? So if you're turning around and saying, God, what's the point in praying to you, what's the point in having this relationship with you, we're therefore becoming atheists, because we're pushing ourselves away from God and turning our backs to him, so that the relationship breaks down. Relationships are built on communication, they're built on talking to each other. Therefore, if you're to have a relationship with God, you need to talk to him. Like I said, God is a fatherly figure. If someone in your family is hurting, he wants to go and comfort you. If that family member dies, he wants to go and comfort you. The beginning of 2 Corinthians is all about how God is a comforting God and how God really wants to help you when you're hurting. One of my favourite poems is called Footprints in the Sand, and that is where a person walking along a beach, he sees the 2 sets of footprints, so he's walking along the beach with God. Now, at the times when he was at the lowest parts of his life, the times when he was really hurting, he only saw 1 set of footprints. He called out to God saying, Lord, when I needed you the most, where were you? And God said, those 1 set of footprints were mine. That was when I was carrying you. That's when I was holding you through that situation. So yes, situations might not turn out the way we want to, but God is a God of relationships. He wants to get to know you. He wants to be your father. So therefore, when you're hurting and when you're down, you can turn to God and he will show you love. He is a loving God and he wants to get to know you personally through prayer and through reading the Bible. So thank you to my friend for pointing out this video to me, and thank you to the Cosmic Skeptic for making the video. You do raise some good points, and actually I think they're points that all Christians need to think about. If you believe in God, this is something that I've thought about myself, and this is something that I've looked into, and I've found that no, it's not pointless to pray. However, if you're a new and young Christian, I think it's really important to actually work out for yourselves, is it pointless to pray or not? So, to sum up, pretty much I would say no, prayer is not pointless, because prayer is a communication between God and man. It's where you talk to God, it's where you get to know him better, and that's where you really learn about his love. So guys, I hope you've all enjoyed the video, and I hope you've all learned something new. If you have any quarrels or anything wrong or if you've found something that you think is wrong in what I've said and you disagree with me, be sure to leave a comment in the comment section, but please be civil. don't want any arguments kicking off down there. But I hope you all have a wonderful and blessed day. God bless. I've been Stevie T. Don't forget to be real, be true, and I shall catch you all in the bizzle.